Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Sam to review Brighton 1, Aston Villa nil. A defeat. Not a great performance, but I guess positives in Unai Emery's sense of where we are, what we're doing, and the way that Tottenham are performing at the moment as well, who are doing us a big favour. So we're going to get into the game a little bit. We're going to talk around kind of what it means moving into the next three or hopefully four matches, and how can Villa get over the line on this Champions League travels, and then also I guess maybe talk about a little Twitter spat that we've been having over the past couple of days. But Sam, how are you doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. My cat's just jumped up on me.
You
It
look
doesn't
like
seem to.
you definitely look like one of those villains now, off the old
Yeah, let's stroking the
James
cat.
Bond.
Um, I don't. Yeah, he doesn't normally get to come up here, but he's. That's a bit too late to take him out now. So
No, it's all good, mate. It's
he's
all
with us
good.
for the rest of the
We
podcast.
maybe you can subscribe because apparently we're growing slower than fungi. So maybe you can add to the numbers that we apparently
I,
we
I,
should be we should be on 50,000 in the last two seasons if if everything's to go by.
I think you took that one personally, Rich. I'm not gonna lie.
And I took that personally.
You did take it personally. Um, yeah. Yeah. Well, hello to everyone. First and foremost, I'm sure we'll get into the the Twitter. Um, I don't even know if it's a beef. It's just a general debate. It's something that seems to be splitting the. From the response that I got, seems to be splitting the fan base in half, like sort of 50-50 for and against. But I guess in general, just sort of focusing on Brighton as well, and what we've got two Premier League games left this season. So yeah, not much longer to go.
Exactly, and it does feel a little bit. Sorry, there's so many in the comments. I'll just get into the comments. Like Rachel, good evening to you. Duncan, good evening. Bear in the Garden, good evening. Carly, good evening. I will star some of the comments as well, but so many of you in the house. Michael, good evening to you. PJJ as well. Um, Jonathan, I've seen you in the chat as well. Good evening to you, mate. And yes, it has been a big week for Villa. Terry, good evening to you. Black Rum and Mark, good evening to you. So loads in the chat. Do make sure you hit that like button, guys, as always. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We've got to hit 4,000 as soon as possible. but
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, thank you for all your support. But yeah, I will star some of the comments because some of it will come in a sec. But it's so difficult to not comment on this in terms of, yes, you've just said that, the last two league games of the season, you don't want to say kind of stumbling to the line or stumbling over the line, but it's so difficult not to kind of look at it in that way. However, there are other teams, likes of Tottenham, the likes of Liverpool before today, likes of Man United. There's other teams that just it's the same again. Just it's a long old season. It's so difficult to maintain that consistency and so difficult to maintain that kind of level of performance throughout the whole season. And it shows what a great job we've done.
Yeah, and I think you see it not just sort of over the course of the season, but you even see it in individual games where we, might be a bit below par for 60, 70 minutes. And in the last 20 minutes, we come alive and get a second wind. I don't think we're hobbling over the line. I think we're crawling over the line now, having been shot 3 times in the leg. Like we're absolutely just back down to the bare bones, really. And I think you can't sort of take any performance or even the season without adding in the context of how sort of threadbare we are. In terms of the squad depth. When we started the season, pre-injuries, pre-Buendia getting injured in pre-season, I thought that we looked like a really, really strong squad. I was like, we're absolutely loaded in all areas. We're absolutely fine. But I guess the thing that you never really count on is, having so many big injuries to so many key players all throughout the season. And obviously there are certain areas where, we looked a little bit light with Ollie Watkins, and see Duran was a bit of an unknown quantity. We didn't really know what we were going to get out of him. But it's the amount of games that we've played, some of our individual players like John McGinn for Villa in Scotland has played. I think I saw it was on average.
Is it over 4,000 minutes or something?
I think it's a game every 4 days for the last 9 months, which is, and that's how often John McGinn's played. Kind of makes sense as to why he kicked the living crap out of Basuma in that Spurs game. Maybe he just wanted 3 games off. You have to put it into context. But yeah, look, we're really, everyone's knackered. Everyone's obviously we've got a lot of injuries. Everyone's really just trying to get over the line. And I think, put it into context in the whole season, I think it's been incredible. But obviously, when we're fighting for these, we're right at the end of it. We're finish lines in sight. So every single time you take a little stumble, like we did on Thursday, like we did today, it's going to be like a real kick in the gut, because we're just so close to getting everything that we could have possibly hoped to achieve this season. So yeah, I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, you're dead right, and it does put it into context with the amount of injuries that we've had, and it almost mentally for the players as well. Just, I guess, getting that one result that gets them over the line will be so big for them, and you can almost see them like clutching at it or trying to grasp at it, or whether it's some form of decisions in games, whether it's the approach to games, trying to look like we're relaxed and maybe we're not quite as relaxed as we should be, or maybe it's pushing for an attack or doing something that maybe you wouldn't normally do. It's those little kind of like moments that maybe cost you in terms of the wanting to get to that finish line so quickly that you maybe don't do what you've always done previously, and it's I guess just it'll be a huge weight off the shoulders of the players as and when it gets done, this kind of Champions League qualification.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I think everyone knows it. Everyone's saying it. Like, I think today's the first day that even Unai Emery, like, all he said in his post-match press conference was, "We need to rest." Like, that's as close as you'll ever get to Unai Emery complaining about the players being knackered and the grueling schedule, and the fact that we've got to play again on Thursday and then on Monday, and he's got no one to select. But yeah, I mean, you have to. I think Unai actually summed it up quite well. He said a week ago we were on top of the world because we beat Arsenal, we beat Lille on penalties, we beat Bournemouth, and it was his best ever week at the club. And then go forward 1 week, and we've just about drawn to Chelsea. We've got battered by Olympiacos in the first leg, and obviously now we've lost to Brighton. And these things happened a week apart. And he summed it up really, really eloquently, and he just said, "This is football." And sometimes. You can't argue with him. The man knows what he's talking about. So he's right, though, and it has gone from sort of like such a high in terms of the week to being so special to what has been pretty much a bunch of crap for the last week. But you have to take the good with the bad as fans in general. I guess certain people's opinions differ on how you take it, whether that involves just being silent and saying, well, I'm not going to say anything because look at where we're at, which is a fine point of view, because, if you were to holistically look at this 18 months ago or 2 years ago, when we were struggling under Gerrard, and you said, by the way, in a year's time, you're going to be in semi-final of the European competition and 2 games away from Champions League, would you not have taken it? Would you have? Do you know what I mean? So you have to. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that sort of. If we just have to be sort of like grateful forever, then I guess there's. I don't really see the point. Like, you have to be able to emote. Like, football is about emotions. Football is about passion. It's about being really high when your team wins and being really low. It's almost like being bipolar. You have to go ebb and flow, because that's what you get out of it. It's the endorphins, it's the that's what makes it special. But I do get it. I think Emery's right. After Olympiacos, I felt a bit down, a bit depleted. But after today's game, surprisingly, I feel very, very calm, calm, because I know, right, we're at the crunch time now. There's no time to.
And look, Tottenham are doing themselves absolutely no favours, and we're in that race with Tottenham, and they're imploding in real time as well. And look, today's game, we'll get into today's game. It was one of those games. Had we got out there with a point, it would have been a hard fought point. We didn't play well. We got out there. Had we nicked a win, it would have been great defensive performance, goalkeeper man of the match, smash and grab win. But we didn't. We conceded a late penalty. Debatable. I'll get your views on whether it was a penalty, whether you thought it was a penalty. But it becomes then a poor performance and a good win for Brighton, and all of a sudden their performance is good. When I admittedly I was driving back from my son's football tournament, so I listened to the full game on the radio. But it didn't sound like they had a huge amount of chances. I think Olsen made a couple of really good saves, 1v1 saves, but it wasn't a classic game by any stretch of the imagination. And it could have gone either way. In terms of a result, we could have nicked it. We didn't have many chances at all. But I
have to disagree a little bit. And I'll maybe it's just watching the whole 100 minutes of it, but we were dire today in every position.
Yeah, I could tell by the way that they were talking about it. We didn't look like we could string a pass together, and we were sloppy. And
no, we were awful. I think Brighton were better. I think they were deservedly winners. If I'm being honest about it, I think they had a couple of things go against them, and by the time they scored, and obviously the penalty was given, it always looked like it was coming. They just had a goal disallowed for a gross offside, which was really, really tight.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of really, really brilliant saves by Robin Olsen. I think just in general, I think our first corner was in the second half, and by that point they'd had 6. I think they had 12 shots on target, and it was 12 shots, and we'd had 1. Their XG at one point was like 1.6, 1.7, and ours was 0.06. I think maybe the point of view that Villa probably were worth a draw, it might be sort of like biased from our perspective because we're Villa fans. I think if you're a neutral watching that game, you'd say that Brighton were the better team for pretty much the whole 90 minutes. We never really looked a threat, and if anyone was going to win it, then they were going to. And I think even if we had won that game, I still think we would have taken a look, sort of sat back and just gone, "Oh my God, how have we done that? How have we managed to nick that?" Because again, it wasn't because Brighton were brilliant, although we made them look a lot better than they are considering their form and the fact they hadn't scored since March. But I think if you really look at it just on a balanced, non-biased view, I think it was the right result today, and I think that's part of the reason that I'm not particularly upset. I don't feel like we were overall hard done by, although we could talk about the penalty and the penalty that wasn't given for
as well.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, it was like in the first half, it was Stephen Warnock who was kind of the co-commentator, and they were literally talking about everything else other than the football. It just didn't seem like anything was happening whatsoever. I think Adingra had a shot that Olsen saved in the first half, and then I think that was about it. But yeah, you guys, you let me know what. I know Rogers got brought down in the first few minutes. That decision equated with the actual one that was given for Adingra. What are your thoughts against that?
I think on the balance, probably neither of them were penalties. But I think if you give the Adingra one, then you have to give the Rogers one. I think it was kind of building up with Adingra because he'd been causing so much havoc on that left-hand side.
He was the main man today.
100%. Like he was the main threat, and I was just hoping that he'd get subbed off, or that he'd be tired. And he was just a threat. And I think he'd pushed Konsa sort of like to the limit a few times, and Konsa had got his body in front of him and was doing what I mean. I can't, you know me. I think I'm probably the biggest concert fan I know. Like I've raved about, but he had he had an absolute stinker today.
Do you
Um,
think? Do you think? I mean, Kevin said there, and he's asked the same thing. Is he? Is it because he's not comfortable at that right back spot? I mean, especially against a
we've
winger like
seen him
that.
play
I mean,
better. We've seen him
yeah,
play better at right back. If I'm being honest, like yeah, he's not a natural right back, fine. But I think the best thing about Ezri Konsa is sort of like his spatial awareness, his defensive reading of the game, and I think he was just off it today. He looked sort of like a step short. Adingra was getting behind him, maybe where if Konsa had 100% energy and Konsa's another one who's played a ridiculous number of games
yes.
and he's covered loads of different positions. He just looked like a yard off the pace today. So yeah, I mean, look, you're not going to get the best out of Ezri Konsa at right back, but you've got to remember he was playing right back for a good chunk of the season when we were doing brilliantly, and we weren't complaining about him not being a right back then. So yeah, I mean, you could. I feel like you can make loads and loads and loads of excuses, or not even excuses. We'll just say, look, this is the reason. If Ezri Konsa's knackered because he's played 55 games this season, it's a
Then he is.
it's a
Yeah,
valid excuse.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like the
Yes, if
valid
John
reason. But
McGinn's knackered, yeah, yeah, yeah,
but I
yeah.
don't think you need to start making alternative excuses like oh, he's not a right back, or he knows that position well enough now, and he knows. Obviously, he does a really good job of keeping that line. But I think there were loads of players who were off it today. Pau Torres was the worst I've seen him since that Newcastle game. I've got to be honest. He had an absolute stinker. He couldn't. I say he couldn't pass the ball. To be honest, there was no one really showing for it. Like there's no.
Well,
The
this
biggest
is what
problem.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
I hardly heard Watkins mentioned, Bailey mentioned, and a lot of people in the chat talk about Diaby. Again, not really showing any sort of impact in a game. And is that because we're not controlling the game enough in midfield? Is it because they're not moving, they're not making the right movements, or is it a combination of the two?
No, I think it was a difficult game for them. So Bailey started quite brightly. Actually, he started out on the right where he normally plays, um, and then Morgan Rogers got injured. So whilst Rogers was on the left, Diaby was through the middle, and then Bailey was on the right. And sometimes Bailey and Diaby were doubling up on that right hand side, which was probably our most effective output at that stage. Once Morgan Rogers got injured and he came off for Matty Cash, went on the right. Diaby went in the middle, stayed in the middle, and then Bailey went over to the left actually.
Yeah.
And you can tell by the way that Bailey plays how he likes to drag it back because he's so left-footed. When he drags it back, he brings it back across his body. So it's not like when he's on the right and he can push it with the outside of his foot just out of reach. So he has to go through the defender, and he was just struggling on that left-hand side. And that's why he wasn't getting mentioned. Diaby was doing a lot of running, a lot of pressing, and making some good challenges, but didn't really do anything of note. And I think what sums it up is Ollie Watkins by the 40th minute had only had 3 touches in the whole game.
Yeah.
And it was one of those. I think the big reason for it is we are so light in midfield that John McGinn and Dougie are always standing shoulder to shoulder with a Brighton player. So you've got Matty Cash, who was out on the right, Bailey, Diaby, and there's just no one to pass it to. There's no one to pass because you can't really go long. If you go long and you get it into Watkins' feet, he's pretty good at holding the ball up, maybe pushing it back. But he's right next to Lewis Dunk, who's 6'5", 6'6". He's a massive, massive guy, and he couldn't get the better of him and Veltman today. So the outlet wasn't there. And sometimes on Twitter they say describe the match in 3 words. If I had to pick 3 words, I would say back to keeper, because all we kept doing, no matter what the position, was we kept playing it round the edge, which Brighton were more than happy for us to do, through the middle, back to the other edge, and then we just play it back to the keeper, and then we'd eventually lose it. It'll get taken out of possession. So there was nothing today. There was no creative spark. There was no creative outlet. There was no one to play through the middle, no one to break the lines, and so it was pretty dire in terms of the actual game itself. Obviously, not so much about the situation or the season or where we're going, but I think in terms of every Villa fan will have watched that today and said, yeah, we were
Yeah,
pants.
yeah, definitely. I mean, with regards to kind of the midfield, yes, we are really, really hamstrung with options. We know Kamara's out and what a big impact he has for someone like Douglas Luiz. We know Yuri Tielemans has been playing fantastically well and keeps that ball circulating in midfield. And again, him and McGinn seem to play better in that kind of more defensive area, or certainly of recent times. But are you surprised that Tim Bonham hasn't been used, in terms of that position, just maybe to free up and begin to go further forward, or because clearly Emery does. He said he wanted him to be this backup, and he backed him, but he clearly hasn't. He hasn't backed him.
No, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna presume to know better than Unai Emery, but
No,
from
no, no.
what I've seen of Tim, I just don't understand it because I said today, if you put Tim in there, there's no way that we play worse than we did today. Do you know what I mean? It's not. I'm not sure how apart from shipping a bunch of goals, you got to remember as well, Brighton weren't great. They were just better than us. So I'm not sure there was ever a massive risk of them putting 4 or 5 past us. But I don't see how we could have played any worse. Not only does he give that holding role in front of the midfield, he's also just a pair of fresh legs. Do you know what I mean? Like in a team, in an 11 where everyone's so tired, like what's the harm in just bringing in this kid who's had some good experience now? You know, he played a little bit in Europe, he's played a little bit in the Premier League. Every time I've seen him, I've been, look, I know there's so much to his game to improve on, but the young players like that are only going to develop if you give them a chance. And if I said earlier in the season, you can't take a risk when we're winning games, we're playing well, you can't do it. But when we're like down to the bare bones, and for example, when we're losing anyway, just whack him on. Do you know what I mean? Put him on for a little bit, let him see if he can change things. And what I found really sort of telling about our performance today was even when John Duran came on, I remember I was watching it on TV, and as soon as I saw him pulling up his socks on the sideline, I was like, here comes chaos.
Hmm.
And there was no chaos. He wasn't able to influence the game at all because we just Brighton were very smart after they scored their goal. João Pedro was holding it in the corner loads, and we just couldn't get it back. Everyone was too tired to try and fight for it, and it was pretty much game over. But I would love to have seen Tim maybe a little bit more over the season, because this Dougie John McGinn is not working, and I think the only way it works is if Tielemans is in there. And I think I put it on Twitter just saying I miss Tielemans, but I think he's one of the biggest misses for us. Like, we're really feeling him not being in the squad at the moment.
Yeah. Rachel's saying Tim's more of an 8, so you're containing him if you play him as a 6. But it's whether you play him there or there in an 8 or a 6 position, it's fresh legs. That's what we're talking about. It's someone who's a slightly different option. And as you say, I don't think Brighton were in any way going to beat us 3 or 4-0 today. And it's just a case of giving someone a bit of impetus in midfield. Whether that's to come in and replace Douglas or McGinn, or to come in and replace a Rodgers to help to make him come on off the bench as an impact player or something like that, or even a Diaby. I just think, and you said Watkins, what's he going to do? He's going to try and hold the ball up. We're going to either go long to him, or he's going to have someone he's going to have to try and flick it on or try and do something himself. But at least if you've got, say, a McGinn a little bit further forward, you've got someone else who can hold players off, or maybe get the ball on the turn in a more advanced area to cause a few more problems. I don't know. I'm not going to, like you said, I'm not going to criticise Unai Emery. He sees the players every day and everything like that. So I'm not going to criticise him. But it just seems strange that he hasn't used him a little bit more.
I think it's a fair question. I think it's fair to say, we've got these, you could argue, obviously, a lot of it's been forced in terms of the rotation. But I think even when we had a bit of a healthier squad, I think we all used to say, maybe Emery likes to wait a little bit longer than we normally, or maybe we would like to make a bit some changes in the game. He seems to be really have a lot of faith in his first 11. So obviously, look, it's got us this far. I looked at the bench today. I don't know where Zaniolo was. I did ask in the chat, but everyone ignored me because I saw him. He was at the ground,
I don't
and
know.
he was at the
Yes,
ground.
he
He was
he
at the
he
ground,
would
but he
have been
wasn't
a
in the
good
squad.
option today as well. Yeah, he would have been a really good
I think
option.
after Rogers came off, I think Zaniolo would have been a really good option. I think, you know, I criticised Dougie after the Olympiacos game. Obviously, he had an absolute stinker. But what I criticised wasn't the fact that he conceded a penalty or his penalty miss. What I was criticising was his work rate on the night and his attitude. In terms of trying to close the ball down and do stuff like that. I think it was a lot better today, actually. Seemed to put in a lot more effort, was a lot more animated in terms of wanting to get things at the start. I think by the 70th minute, he got a bit bored and, like everyone else, and kind of wanted to go home. But yeah, like we saw a lot more. I really do believe that these players are giving everything they've got.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, we can't. There's absolutely no doubt that they're not. And like you said, 2 weeks ago it was the best week in the season, and now it's we've got to have a wee bit of perspective. I do understand, when I or you or whoever anyone sends tweets out, sometimes they're after a game and your mood. I think sometimes people react to things, and then that's why I said about the rational Villa fans. Sometimes people react to things like it's completely different after a game or like immediately after a game than it is like 2 or 3 days after. And some people can get into that mood quicker, that mode quicker than others. And some people like to just vent off. It is what it is. Now, there's so many times in the pub where people have said stuff, or in the stands where people say stuff, that you just bat off and you think, oh, what's he on about? Whereas on Twitter, it's completely different.
I think the problem is, like, for me, I will only ever say something that, like, sometimes obviously, like, you lash out in anger after a game where you say something stupid like, oh, I hate football, I'm going to go watch cricket or something stupid like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go pick another sport or another team. You say ridiculous things just in the heat of the moment. But I think when I put stuff on Twitter, I like to put stuff on that, like, I can stand by. And for example, what I said on Thursday after that game, I still believe it now. I think the problem is it's taken out of context. So you can judge a player on their performance in a game, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, without questioning their character or them as a person, but also not talking about a more holistic performance over the season. Because for the most part, everyone in the squad has had to be brilliant because we're fourth and we're in a semi-final. So, for example, if I criticise Luis after a game, and I say that performance, or even those last 2, 3, 4, 5 performances, was missing something, or I wasn't happy with it, or whatever, you have to take it into context. And I think I've seen a couple of tweets after that Brighton game where, only a couple, mind you, like I don't. Everyone else is saying, "Oh, I hate these Villa fans who are, complaining or saying stuff about Emery," and I never see that. I never see those tweets. Maybe I've got a different feed to them, but I saw a couple, and I was like, "Mate, you need to calm down a little bit."
Yeah.
So you have to just, as long as you stand by it, and as long as, if what you're saying, if you look at it in 2-3 days time, and it looks a bit ridiculous and you've gone too far, but if after 2-3 days you say, actually, do you know what? That's fair. I stand by that. Then I think that's where you go right.
Absolutely. Now, a real positive, especially after Thursday night, was the performance of Robin Olsen. And he was very pumped up for some of the saves that he made, and very unlucky with the penalty. Obviously, saved the penalty. Unfortunately, I can see that wry smile on your face. He puts it straight into the path of João Pedro for him to head it in. But look,
Yeah.
a much more positive performance from Olsen, and he probably needed to put in a big performance after Thursday night. But I think someone said, say on the radio, they were saying that Watkins went straight up to him and said, "Outstanding, outstanding," and he certainly wasn't to blame for this defeat today in any way, shape, or form.
No, I said it in the chat as well, because George was coming up with his conspiracy theories about every single time Olsen plays, we lose, and you saw it, so I've got a witness. But I said categorically, Olsen was not the problem today at all. I can see one of the comments asking if Olsen was my man of the match. no, Edringa was my man of the match. But if you mean for Villa, then yeah, he was probably the best player on the pitch for Villa. Yeah, look, let's give him his dues first. I think he played quite well. He was quite commanding from corners. He looked up for it. His distribution, he wasn't really doing anything too out of the box. It was to Carlos or to Torres, but you can't fault him. His distribution was okay. Receiving the ball in those with that high press, as Villa like to play, he was fine. He made a couple of good stops. Ironically, one of the stops he made was the ball was chipped over the top, 1-on-1.
Yeah,
It
it
was a
was so
spitting image
similar.
of the Olympiacos.
Yeah, it was. It
Didn't I
was.
say it? I said it
Yeah,
at the
and this
time.
time he got his leg down.
I said it at the time in the group chat. I said that's a spitting image of the Olympiacos goal. He's just done it right this time, and that's like what you'd expect. Not what you'd expect. Like he's 1-on-1. There's every chance he could go through his legs or the striker could put it in, but he handled that really well. I think what I found quite funny though, but we're going to go on the other side, was every time he made a save like that, it's just the surprise in not just the Villa player's face, but his own face. He just he looks surprised. And there was one save that he made, he was really brilliant, and he started like pounding the ground and like screaming to himself like he just won the World Cup. And look, I was really happy for him that he got a good performance in the Villa shirt. I mean, look, ultimately we still lost, but it had nothing to do with him. I think he played fine. He made a good account of himself. I don't expect him to be. I hope we managed to upgrade our second choice goalkeeper for next year. I think the long and short of it is, I don't know what people are talking about. There's the ironic song, "The World's Number 2," coming from the Villa fans today about Robin Olsen. Look, I don't know what Villa fans want from me. Robin Olsen is not good enough to be playing for Aston Villa. Not in the Premier League, not in the Conference League, and by God, not in the Champions League if we make it. I'm sure he's a fantastic person. He's a good goalkeeper for a certain level. It's just not ours. I'm really happy for him that he did well today. He had a brilliant, as good a performance as you can expect considering what the team gave him to work with. He had a really good account of himself. I don't think it's enough to make up for everything that's gone before, but he can take a lot of pride in his performance today, and he can know that he helped the team as much as he possibly could, and he kept us in the game until the 80th odd minute. So he gave us a fighting chance today, and I feel bad for him that we didn't take it.
Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. Everyone in the chat, we have almost 100 people in the show, which is brilliant as always. We're only sitting on 30 likes though, so if you can, please hit that like button if you haven't already, and do subscribe to the channel if you are new. And as always, if you want to become a member, please do hit that join button or hit the $ if you want to contribute to the channel. And Rich, who has been a member for 6 months now, amazing stuff. Rich says, "Keep the faith, we got this, up the mighty Villa." So yeah, thank you very much for your support, mate. Let's talk another positive, because
I didn't know we had one.
yeah, no, it's not this game related.
Okay.
The Brighton game related. I think we've covered enough on the Brighton game now.
Yeah.
We know it wasn't a great performance. We know, it was what it was. I think we've gone through the players and everything like that in terms of who we thought they did and didn't do. But another positive was Tottenham getting beaten again by Liverpool. Not just beaten, absolutely tanked again. 4-2 this time. So they've lost 4-2, 3-2, 4-0 to Newcastle. They're not putting up a huge fight for this Champions League spot, to be honest.
No, and obviously I watched the game straight after. Made for a really, really good viewing for the first hour. But as Spurs always tend to do, they kind of switch on a little bit. And, they have periods in the game. If they get battered for 70 minutes and they'll pipe up for 20, whether they score or win the game or not, they look dangerous. It made me really, really nervous. But for that first hour, they looked absolutely awful. And I think even in that last half hour, even though they scored 2 and Liverpool were really, really open at the back, even though they scored 2, I think Liverpool could have got another 3 or 4.
Yeah, it was almost like 3-on-2 at the back. Like Tottenham just
Yeah,
think, F this, we're just going to go for it. And their fullbacks were just wingers.
yeah.
Richarlison was up front, Son was up front, Maddison was up front. And it was literally just, oh, look, we've got Van de Ven at the back. He'll try and catch Salah if he gets through. And that was basically it.
I think Van de Ven's a funny one actually, because he's obviously been brilliant at times this season. And I think in terms of his ceiling as a player, I think he's got as high a ceiling as anyone his age in terms of centre back. But my God, he hasn't had some shocking performances this season.
Yeah.
He's had some absolute stinkers. And I'm pretty sure there was a handball that wasn't given against him as well. Look, even though we lost to Brighton, I think I was calm because Spurs had got Liverpool, and I really felt that Liverpool, you never know, because obviously they've got, Jurgen Klopp's leaving. Are they going to down tools? They're not going to win the league anymore. He's having an argument with Salah. Salah, who was brilliant today, sort of like at the heart of everything that they did well. You don't know what kind of Liverpool's going to turn up. You don't know what Spurs is going to turn up. But luckily, Liverpool did us a massive favour. We have got 2 games left to play. Spurs have got 3. We're 7 points clear. If it was, for example, Man United in 4th and Spurs were in 5th, you'd say it's over. You say there's no chance. Obviously, I'm still nervous because for me, it's not over till it's over. Like I always say that. But you can't be much more comfortable with 2 games left to go than 7 points clear. And Spurs having a game in hand and still having to play City as well. You have to remember now, they have to get something from their 3 remaining games. They have to win 2 and at least draw 1 to take it to goal difference. And even then, what is their goal difference? 11 now, and ours is 20.
Yeah,
I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that, to do that kind of damage. I think today was a really good opportunity for us because out of the 3 games we had, Brighton, Liverpool, and Palace, I fancied us getting points at Brighton more than I fancied the other 2, just because Liverpool, we don't have the best record in the world against, apart from that lovely 7-2 that they were part of not too long ago. And Palace are playing like absolute monsters at the moment. Like, the manager's making things click. You've got Eze, Elise, what's his name up front? What's his name? Mateta, yeah, he's on form. Palace look like they're really enjoying their end to the season. So I think our fingers I've got everything crossed. I'm expecting Man City to beat Spurs, and if they do, then it's all
like an absolute machine at the moment, Man City.
Yeah. I mean, it would take something really special for us to not make it. I'm not going to say bottle it because I don't think we can bottle it. Whatever happens, but I think it's too far gone for Spurs, and they don't look great. They don't look great anyway. So that is the biggest positive. It's the best news that we could have had today is Spurs. I don't know why Spurs look so shit. They haven't played any European football this year. I'm knocked out of the trophies early. They're literally just playing in the league and they can't seem to make it gel. I'm not mad about it. I just don't understand it. So, massive positive. Something for all Villa fans, I'm sure, really enjoyed that result as well.
Yeah. Article done said, hey guys, so Spurs are in a dilemma or catch-22 situation. Do they beat Man City and hand the title to Arsenal? He's not so sure.
So obviously I was raised in North London, born in Birmingham, but raised in North London. So spent most of my formative years there. All of my mates are either Spurs fans or Arsenal fans. Every Spurs fan I know is saying that they want Arsenal to lose the league. So they're more than happy to play their under-12s against City. I'm not sure if that's going to translate, but there's already jokes being made about Spurs being really Spursy and winning Arsenal the league by beating City. And it's so plausible as well because Man City have a horrible record away at Spurs. I think it was after the treble, they asked Guardiola, what's next? What more can you possibly achieve at Man City? And he said, I just want to score a goal away at Spurs. So, so yeah, look, that's going to be the big defining game for me. And I think obviously if they lose that, then Champions League is ours. But yeah, it's a brilliant result for us today. And you've got to be happy with the table as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know whether they should beat Burnley. I mean, Burnley look pretty terrible. So if they don't beat Burnley, they certainly do not deserve to be anywhere near getting into the Champions League. But yeah, I can't see them beating Man City, and who knows? We've got an opportunity to get it done on Monday night against Liverpool. I did want to actually, sorry, just shout out Ken there for the £2 super sticker. I'm not sure, I can't see what the super stickers are, but thank you so much for your support, mate. Much appreciated. It doesn't
That's
come
money
up
well
on.
spent, Kev.
Yeah,
That's money
money
well
well spent, but it doesn't show up for me. It obviously shows up for everyone else on the
spent.
screen, but it doesn't show up on this app. So yeah, I'm sorry, mate.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, in terms of the next three games, Olympiacos, Liverpool, and Crystal Palace. Emery said, rest tomorrow and go into Thursday. How do you think the players now will approach these games? Do you think they'll have a bit of inspiration after Tottenham's bad result? Do you think they say, come on, just two more big performances? How do you think they go for it now?
I think they just take it a game at a time, Rich, if I'm being honest. I think right now it's can we beat Olympiacos? That's for me. I think that's where they must be at. They must just be saying, look, all right, the league, there's nothing we can do about it until Monday when we play Liverpool. Luckily, Spurs didn't get the points today. We've got a really healthy gap there, so we're not panicking. They're not sitting there going, oh crap, Spurs are right on our tail in the Premier League. That they've got a bit of distance for that, but I think all the focus is on Olympiacos now, and what it's going to take to overturn that result. And I think as well, what they have to look at is maybe the last few games and just really question where it's all gone wrong. Because I think I very much agree that the amount of games they played, the injuries, it's contributed massively to that. But they must be thinking, well, look, what can we do? How do we get over this line? What can we do differently? Because otherwise, just pack it in. Do you know what I mean? Like if you can't, if they have that mentality where they're feeling sorry for themselves and but we played so many games and we've got so many injuries, then they're never going to win against Olympiacos. They need to have a no excuse mentality going into that game. The players need to, think, right, we're going to have to pull this out somewhere. We're going to have to do something different, get the creative juices flowing, get the vibe back, get the energy back. And you can't remember, these players must be excited because they're on the verge of a final. Do you know what I mean?
Precisely. Yeah.
They have to be.
You
And
want to
Champions
just
League
go
football.
into it. Yeah. Yes, we had negativity after the game last week. We lost 4-2. But equally, we've gone to grounds and won. We've gone to Arsenal and won 2-0. We've had some big results this season away from home. Why can't we go there and win? Why can't the players, like I say, put in one more big week in terms of performances and get us over the line? And maybe we've got a couple of players coming back. Maybe we've got Emi Martinez coming back. Maybe we've got Tielemans coming back. Moreno was back on the bench today. If Zaniolo felt a slight strain today, maybe he's back on Thursday. So all of a sudden, you go from 0 options in the side to potentially having 3 or 4 options to utilise, whether that's in the starting 11 or coming off the bench.
It's great. It's like you can probably tell from everything in my background to what I'm wearing. I'm like a big anime fan and stuff like that, or like superheroes, whatever it is. But it's always that way in any movie you watch. It's like it looks like we're in dire straits right at the end.
Yeah,
the heroes, the cavalry
and you
come.
assemble. Yeah, your
cavalry
backup comes at the end when you're facing the last boss.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's like this cavalry. There's no better time for imagine the defenders looking back and seeing Emi Martinez in goal and just being like, oh, okay, fine. Yuri Tielemans on the pitch, Dougie McGinn playing a little bit further forward, and Zaniolo. Like you can say what you want about him, but he brings something different to this squad, and I think he's definitely got a place, especially in a big game like this. You have to remember he scored the winner in a final of a European competition not too long ago, in two years ago. So he knows what it takes to get over the line in these types of games. So I think I think we're in a good place. I think it's a really good time to get some players back. I do worry about Morgan Rogers because he's been so good.
Yeah, someone was saying that in the chat earlier that he could be out for the season. I think it might have been Adamski, but I'm not sure if anything official's come through yet on that.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's
No,
not the
it's
first
what,
time he's
two
gone
weeks
down.
left. Yeah.
It's not the first time he's gone down in recent games as well. I think he's gone down a couple. Didn't he go off on the Olympiacos game early as well? Or did he come on? He came on because someone went off.
I
Am
don't
I
remember.
misremembering? Something happened anyway. So yeah, he's
Something happened, whatever it was.
he's clearly tired. So yeah, we have to dig deep, and I think
He came off after 74 minutes for John Duran, but I don't know if it was due to injury.
fair enough. I think it might have been actually. I think he might have gone down, which is like cramp or whatever. But I think, and I don't want to isolate this one player, and with especially with my reputation as well. But I think we need a big game from Watkins. We need him to get an early goal and to really involve himself in the game. And if he's not getting the ball, drop a little bit deeper. Do you know what I mean? Like, because today, like I said, in the first 40 minutes, he only had 3 touches of the ball. I understand wanting him to stay up, but if he can involve himself in the game, maybe drop a little bit deeper to hold the ball up or receive it to feet so it doesn't have to go over. I would really love. He's been stuck on 19 in the league now for a while. I was saying it was a dead cert, wasn't I? Like I jinxed it about 4 or 5 games
I think
ago.
we've all felt that, and I think he's obviously got more tense as it's gone on as well.
Yeah,
But
he hasn't scored. He hasn't scored in a while. And I think
he scored on Thursday night,
yeah,
didn't he?
he's obviously scored on third, but
In the
I
league
mean, is he's
since
due?
Arsenal.
Yeah, I think he's due. I think he's due like a big performance, and I think
Yeah,
if anyone's going to lead us to a victory against Olympiacos, I really believe it's Ollie Watkins. And I'm not saying if we don't beat them, it's his fault. But I'm saying if anyone's going to instigate that belief, I think it's an early goal from our main man. Everyone knows he's back on. Find him, find the ball, bring that confidence back in the team. And I think, but yeah, I think the main thing is just trying to get an early goal. Give yourself
Gary
a
said the
chance.
same.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with Gary.
Yeah. A quick word on our neighbours, Birmingham City.
Go on then.
Obviously, they got a victory yesterday against Norwich, but it still
Yeah.
wasn't enough because Leicester handed victory to Blackburn after they obviously had a few too many drinks celebrating their league win, and then Plymouth also got a victory. Yeah, Birmingham City, after all their grand plans, now playing in League One. I
Well,
mean,
they say the best laid plans of mice and men and blues. Um,
yeah,
yeah, it's really funny actually. We've been having a little debate in our group chat about how happy you are that Blues have gone down. I always smile on any misfortune that befalls the Blues. Horrible little club, horrible tiny little minuscule pieces of shit they are. But even in defeat, they can't be magnanimous. They can't say, "Oh, we're going to come back. We've got to plow it." It's always. I literally saw one tweet that made me burst out laughing. They said, "Oh, you can tell which clubs are envious of us by their reaction to us going down." It's like, envious of what? like what have you got that anyone wants? Apart from like not even a connection to Tom Brady. I don't like him either.
no, and he doesn't really, he puts a few tweets out. Yeah, he's been to a couple of matches, but does he really care?
No,
Like,
he doesn't care. But I think the only thing I would say is for how funny it is to see Blues go down. I do miss the Derby game. I do miss
yeah,
playing them,
yeah,
and I hope that we get them in the like cup or something like that. But even if you do, and they're a League One team and you're a Champions League, you can't even like. What are you going to say? Is you're going to say what? Like, yeah, we battered you in the cup. It's like, well, of course you did. You play in Champions League. We're in League One, so it kind of takes it fun out of it a little bit. But yeah, look, it couldn't happen to a nicer club. They're down there now. We might as well enjoy it. But it would be nice to have a derby and kind of re-spark that rivalry because now they're in League One. It kind of feels it's like, well, what are we going to start beefing with Coventry and Solihull Moors and Like what? What are we
Yeah,
gonna
well,
do?
exactly. It's, Newcastle and Sunderland. Obviously, I live up in Newcastle, so they've kind of had nothing of that rivalry for a long time. Yes, they played this season in the
I was going
FA
to say
Cup,
the
which
next play season,
which
yeah.
which brought that back. But when Sunderland have been languishing in League One and Newcastle been in the Premier League, it's almost like an irrelevance. It's a complete irrelevance. And Birmingham City, unfortunately for them, and unfortunately in terms of the derby situation, will be an irrelevance for us. Yeah, and LG said the under-21s team will play them in the Johnson's Paint Trophy next season. So
But it's kind of like we don't have. I don't know about everyone else because obviously I was born and raised in Birmingham, and so I do have that Brummie connection. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, I spent a lot of my life in London. I don't feel any sort of rivalry towards Wolves. I've got a little bit of West Brom, especially when we were in the Championship. I really felt that rivalry then. But in general, I don't watch out for their games. I know that they're in the playoffs, so I don't really care if they go up or go down. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know if there's any other derbies. I personally, obviously, that connection to North London, I'm always looking out for when we're playing Arsenal and playing Spurs, but it's not really a derby. It's not
no,
a
it's
rivalry,
just
and no one else cares
your
but me.
friends, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah. So like, I'd love to get that back. I'd love to get that rivalry back. But like I say, we can laugh at them being in League One, and
absolutely.
I
Well,
think with
I
all
think
their
Rachel
bluster
said
of
it. Yeah,
on the
exactly,
rise
mate.
again and all this shit. Yeah.
Exactly, the arrogance, the bluster, the this Wagner who's come in and he's putting money behind the bar and he's getting involved with the fans and buying them drinks. And as soon as an owner does that, it's destined for trouble because they're trying to be
You
popular.
never catch massive Suarez in a pub. Like you,
Exactly, or like in the away end with the fans. It just
in,
smacks of trying
but
to
do
look
you know what it is
popular.
though? They're so small time. Like, and I really mean this. I'm not trying to be mean. They are just so. They're so shit and they're so small time, and everything they do and every move that they make is just so, like, I don't know, cringy. I don't want to say that. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but everything they do is just like, I'm so glad I'm not a Blues fan. I'm so glad that when I picked a team when I was in Birmingham, I picked Villa. My brother picked Villa, and you get to move on. Because what are they doing? Like, they're still talking about their stupid little stadium that they're not little. It's going to be
The biggest stadium in League One
the biggest stadium in League. But yeah, I
or
mean,
League Two, maybe. Who knows?
what do we say? She's shit on the city. Up the Villa, and it's going to be, if you do live in Birmingham and you have a lot of blue noses around you, I can't imagine there's going to be much better things than going to work and talking about Champions League Wednesdays and League One Wednesdays.
Yeah, exactly. Well, mate, I think it's been a hugely positive weekend despite the result. We're still 7 points ahead of Tottenham. They being as Spursy as they always are. We've got a Europa Conference League semi-final to look forward to on Thursday. Birmingham City are down into League One. What more could we ask for? And mate, I think we've done a decent job of staying positive because
I,
sometimes us two on a podcast can has been known to
I
delve into a
really,
little bit of negativity.
no, do you know what? I really am. I'm really not that down after today. And I'll say it for this reason very simply. Everything is in our own hands. Like, we can go and beat Olympiacos if we've got the minerals and we're up to it. We can go and win that competition. It's in our own hands, and the same with the league now. All we need is one win, or for Spurs not to win one game. If Spurs don't win their remaining games, which include Man City, then Champions League is ours, and it doesn't matter what they do. If we win our games, and we're golden, we're gravy. So. I think it's absolutely a time for positivity, a time for reflection. I'm really excited about the game against Olympiacos on Thursday. I don't have any expectations for it because it would take something else. It would be a comeback of an enormous magnitude to overturn that result away at Olympiacos in their hometown, home stadium. So, but I'm here for it. This is everything you want as a football fan, especially as a Villa fan. Like, European semi-final where we have the chance to take it all, and Champions League in our own hands. Boys, what more can we ask for? Come on, enjoy it.
Exactly. Exactly. We will be back with, I hope, talking tactics for the Brighton game with Gareth. Fans forum on Tuesday, so get your questions in. Message us on at Villa Park Pod. I will put a tweet out tomorrow. So get your questions or talking points or comments in regarding anything Aston Villa related on or off the pitch. We'll have preview for that massive game against Olympiacos. Maybe even a watch along again. We'll see if we can do that. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe it'd be too tense. We'll see. And then, but yeah, obviously, loads of shows to come for the week. So, guys, make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Hit that like button on your way out. We're getting towards 50 likes, so we want to get. Can we hit 60 likes for this show? If you haven't
Come on, we've
already,
got to keep the
please.
Twitter trolls happy. You don't
We've
think we're
got to
growing
keep them
fast enough?
happy.
We
We've got to
we
keep
need to
them
talk
happy.
about that, Rich. Next time.
Yeah, we will. But yeah, thank you for everyone's support. Thank you for watching tonight. Great comments in the chat as always. Sam, always a pleasure, mate. Thank you for joining me. Have a great week, everyone. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.